Genetic code. During replication and transcription, a nucleic acid was copied to form another nucleic acid. Hence, these processes are easy to conceptualize on the basis of complementarity. The process of translation requires transfer of genetic information from a polymer of nucleotides to synthesize a polymer of amino acids. Neither does any complementarity exist between nucleotides and amino acids, nor could any be drawn theoretically. There existed ample evidences, though, to support the notion that change in nucleic acids' genetic material were responsible for change in amino acids in proteins. This led to the proposition of a genetic code that could direct the sequence of amino acids during synthesis of proteins. If determining the biochemical nature of genetic material and the structure of DNA was very exciting, the proposition and deciphering of genetic code were most challenging. In a very true sense, it required involvement of scientists from several disciplines: physicists, organic chemists, biochemists, and geneticists. It was George Gamow, a physicist, who argued that since there are only 4 bases, and if they have to code for 20 amino acids, the code should constitute a combination of bases. He suggested that in order to code for all the 20 amino acids, the code should be made up of 3 nucleotides. This was a very bold proposition because a permutation combination of 4 to the power 3, 4 into 4 into 4 would generate 64 codons, generating many more codons than required. Providing proof that the codon was a triplet was a more daunting task. The chemical method developed by Hargoben Khorana was instrumental in synthesizing RNA molecules with defined combinations of bases, homopolymers, and copolymers. Marshall Nirenberg's cell-free system for protein synthesis finally helped the code to be deciphered. Severo Ochoa enzyme polynucleotide phosphorylase was also helpful in polymerizing RNA with defined sequences in a template-independent manner, enzymatic synthesis of RNA. Finally, a checkerboard for genetic code was prepared, which is given in table. The salient features of genetic code are as follows. 1. The codon is triplet. 61 codons code for amino acids, and 3 codons do not code for any amino acids, hence they function as stop codons. 2. Some amino acids are coded by more than 1 codon, hence the code is degenerate. The codon is read in mRNA in a contiguous fashion. There are no punctuations. 4. The code is nearly universal, for example, from bacteria to human. UUU would code for phenylalanine Phe. Some exceptions to this rule have been found in mitochondrial codons and in some protozoans. 5. AUG has dual functions. It codes for methionine MET and IT, also act as initiator codon. 6. UAA, UAG, DIUGA are stop terminator codons. If following is the sequence of nucleotides in mRNA, predict the sequence of amino acid coded by it, take help of the checkerboard. AUG, UUU, UUC, UUC, UU, UU, UUC. Now try the opposite. Following is the sequence of amino acids coded by an mRNA. Predict the nucleotide sequence in the RNA. Met, face any difficulty in predicting the opposite? Can you now correlate which 2 properties of genetic code you have learned? Mutations and genetic code. The relationships between genes and DNA are best understood by mutation studies. You have studied about mutation and its effect in Chapter 4. Effects of large deletions and rearrangements in a segment of DNA are easy to comprehend. It may result in loss or gain of a gene, and so a function. The effect of point mutations will be explained here. A classical example of point mutation is a change of single base pair in the gene for beta-globin chain that results in the change of amino acid residue glutamate to valine. It results into a diseased condition called as sickle cell anemia. Effect of point mutations that inserts or deletes a base in structural gene can be better understood by following simple example. Consider a statement that is made up of the following words, each having 3 letters, like genetic code. Ram has red cap if we insert a letter B. In between has and read and rearranged the statement, it would read as follows. Ram has braid DCAP. Similarly, if we now insert two letters at the same place, say BI, now it would read. Ram has beer EDC, AP. Now we insert three letters together, say big. The statement would read, Ram has big red cap. The same exercise can be repeated by deleting the letters R, E, and D, one by one, and rearranging the statement to make a triplet word. Ram has EDC, AP. Ram has DCAP. Ram has cap. The conclusion from the above exercise is very obvious. Insertion or deletion of one or two bases changes the reading frame from the point of insertion or deletion. However, such mutations are referred to as frame shift insertion or deletion mutations. Insertion or deletion of three or its multiple bases, insert or delete in one or multiple codon, hence one or multiple amino acids. And reading frame remains unaltered from that point onwards. tRNA, the adapter molecule. From the very beginning of the proposition of code, it was clear to Francis Crick that there has to be a mechanism to read the code and also to link it to the amino acids, because amino acids have no structural specialities to read the code uniquely. He postulated the presence of an adapter molecule that would on one hand read the code and on other hand would bind to specific amino acids. The tRNA, then called sRNA. Soluble RNA was known before the genetic code was postulated. However, its role as an adapter molecule was assigned much later. tRNA has an anticodon loop that has bases complementary to the code, and it also has an amino acid acceptor N to which it binds to amino acids. tRNAs are specific for each amino acid. For initiation, there is another specific tRNA that is referred to as initiator tRNA. There are no tRNAs for stop codons. In figure, the secondary structure of tRNA has been depicted that looks like a clover leaf. In actual structure, the tRNA is a compact molecule which looks like inverted L. Translation. Translation refers to the process of polymerization of amino acids to form a polypeptide. The order and sequence of amino acids are defined by the sequence of bases in the mRNA. The amino acids are joined by a bond which is known as a peptide bond. Formation of a peptide bond requires energy. Therefore, in the first phase itself, amino acids are activated in the presence of ATP and linked to their cognate tRNA, a process commonly called as charging of tRNA or aminoacylation of tRNA. To be more specific, if two such charged tRNAs are brought close enough, the formation of peptide bond between them would be favored energetically. The presence of a catalyst would enhance the rate of peptide bond formation. The cellular factory responsible for synthesizing proteins is the ribosome. The ribosome consists of structural RNAs and about 80 different proteins. In its inactive state, it exists as two subunits, a large subunit and a small subunit. When the small subunit encounters an mRNA, the process of translation of the mRNA to protein begins. There are two sites in the large subunit for subsequent amino acids to bind to and thus be close enough to each other for the formation of a peptide bond. The ribosome also acts as a catalyst 23 seconds. rRNA in bacteria is the enzyme ribozyme for the formation of peptide bond. A translational unit in mRNA is the sequence of RNA that is flanked by the start codon AUG, and the stop codon encodes for a polypeptide. An mRN also has some additional sequences that are not translated and are referred as untranslated regions, UTR. The UTR are present at both 5' and before start codon, and at 3' and after stop codon. They are required for efficient translation process. For initiation, the ribosome binds to the mRNA at the start codon AUG, that is recognized only by the initiator tRNA. The ribosome proceeds to the elongation phase of protein synthesis. During this stage, complexes composed of an amino acid linked to tRNA sequentially bind to the appropriate codon in mRNA. By forming complementary base pairs with the tRNA anticodon, the ribosome moves from codon to codon along the mRNA. Amino acids are added one by one, translated into polypeptide sequences dictated by DNA and represented by mRNA. At the end, a release factor binds to the stop codon, terminating translation and releasing the complete polypeptide from the ribosome. Regulation of gene expression. Regulation of gene expression refers to a very broad term that may occur at various levels. Considering that gene expression results in the formation of a polypeptide, it can be regulated at several levels. In eukaryotes, the regulation could be exerted at 1. Transcriptional level formation of primary transcript, 2. Processing level regulation of splicing, 3. Transport of mRNA from nucleus to the cytoplasm, 4. Translational level. The genes in a cell are expressed to perform a particular function or a set of functions. For example, if an enzyme called beta-galactosidase is synthesized by E. coli, it is used to catalyze the hydrolysis of a disaccharide. Lactose into galactose and glucose, the bacteria use them as a source of energy. Hence, if the bacteria do not have lactose around them to be utilized for energy source, they would no longer require the synthesis of the enzyme beta-galactosidase. Therefore, in simple terms, it is the metabolic, physiological, or environmental conditions that regulate the expression of genes. The development and differentiation of embryo into adult organisms are also a result of the coordinated regulation of expression of several sets of genes. In prokaryotes, control of the rate of transcriptional initiation is the predominant site for control of gene expression. In a transcription unit, the activity of RNA polymerase at a given promoter is in turn regulated by interaction with accessory proteins, which affect its ability to recognize start sites. These regulatory proteins can act both positively activators and negatively repressors. The accessibility of promoter regions of prokaryotic DNA is in many cases regulated by the interaction of proteins with sequences termed operators. The operator region is adjacent to the promoter elements in most operons, and in most cases the sequences of the operator bind a repressor protein. Each operon has its specific operator and specific repressor. For example, LAC operator is present only in the LAC operon, and it interacts specifically with LAC repressor only. The LAC operon. The elucidation of the LAC operon was also a result of a close association between a geneticist, Francois Jacob, and a biochemist, Jacques Marneau. They were the first to elucidate a transcriptionally regulated system. In LAC operon, here LAC refers to lactose, a polycistronic structural gene is regulated by a common promoter and regulatory genes. Such arrangement is very common in bacteria and is referred to as operon. To name few such examples, LAC operon, TRP operon, ARA operon, HIS operon, VAL operon, etc. The LAC operon consists of one regulatory gene, the I gene. Here the term I does not refer to inducer. Rather, it is derived from the word inhibitor, and three structural genes, Z, Y, and A. The I gene codes for the repressor of the LAC operon. The Z gene codes for beta-galactosidase, beta-gal, which is primarily responsible for the hydrolysis of the disaccharide, lactose, into its monomeric units, galactose and glucose. The Y gene codes for permease, which increases permeability of the cell to beta-galactosides. The A gene encodes a transacetylase. Hence, all the three gene products in LAC operon are required for metabolism of lactose. In most other operons as well, the genes present in the operon are needed together to function in the same or related metabolic pathway. Lactose is the substrate for the enzyme beta-galactosidase, and it regulates switching on and off of the operon. Hence, it is termed as inducer. In the absence of a preferred carbon source such as glucose, if lactose is provided in the growth medium of the bacteria, the lactose is transported into the cells through the action of permease. Remember, a very low level of expression of lactoperon has to be present in the cell all the time, otherwise lactose cannot enter the cells. The lactose then induces the operon in the following manner. The repressor of the operon is synthesized all the time constitutively from the I gene. The repressor protein binds to the operator region of the operon and prevents RNA polymerase from transcribing the operon. In the presence of an inducer, such as lactose or allolactose, the repressor is inactivated by interaction with the inducer. Race access to the promoter and transcription proceeds. Essentially, regulation of lactoperon can also be visualized as regulation of enzyme synthesis by its substrate. Remember, glucose or galactose cannot act as inducers for lactoperon. Can you think for how long the lactoperon would be expressed in the presence of lactose? Regulation of lactoperon by repressor is referred to as negative regulation. Lactoperon is under control of positive regulation as well, but it is beyond the scope of discussion at this level.